everybody. Welcome to the Saturday morning D&D show. I am your host for this morning, who usually you are greeted by Mr. Jordan himself. The PH is silent, but today I got a better DM than Jordan. I have DanimalDM with me. Say hello, everybody, to Danimal, and Danimal, say hello to everybody.
G'day, I'm DanimalDM, your diligent digital down under dungeon master.
Yeah.
I wouldn't throw accusations about better DMs and whatnot. How dare you, sir?
Yeah, I'm starting a beef between the two already. I think Jordan's in chat, so that's cool. He's hanging out, but he's got stuff to do this weekend. So he said, "Hey, why don't you take the reins of the show?" And I said, "I could try that. I could wrangle somebody up." Danimal was not my first choice, though. Not to break his heart right here on live. I did try to get everybody's favorite extra co-host LB Hackemup, but she was busy, so she missed out too. So we got Danimal, but that's good because me and Danimal get to play games together, and we can kind of dive into some of the games that he's running for a group of friends that we have, and he also runs so many other games that'll be interesting. But just like we do normally with our show here, we kind of jump into the news. And you guys have met Danimal before. He's been on the show before, so if you want to check out some of that when we interviewed him a little bit more too, you can see that one too. It was pretty cool. So we didn't have a lot of news from Dungeons and Dragons, which sometimes is good and sometimes is bad. We didn't see any new lawsuit information or anything like that. No new UA articles or anything for us to have dived into, because that would have been fun for me and Danimal to dissect a little bit. But I did notice a lore you should know over on the Dungeons and Dragons channel that was for DMsGuild, which is the French domain of dread. And so if you want to learn about that one, you can go over there. It's supposed to be like a French grim fairy tale kind of mix. I don't know how many of the different domains of dread have you been introduced to, or do you know of? I only know of a couple. And I know they're interested in a bunch.
Primarily, not to name drop this YouTuber you might have heard of, but primarily I really only know the ones that Jordan with the silent PH has been posting on his channel.
Oh, that guy? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I've been really digging him though, but most of his stuff's all good.
Yeah, he's a good kid. I think he's coming up in the world, really. So, yeah, I'm kind of waiting for him to go kind of through the different domains, because there's a lot of them out there that are pretty obscure that they brought together in this book. And the thing I noticed in listening to this video of them talking about it was, this is one of the ones that was really abstract. It had a lot of uncongruent pieces to it. And so when they released it in this book, they wanted to condense that and turn it into an actual cohesive place and turn it into, they wanted each of the domains to have their own feel to them, so you could run different types of stories in the different domains. They didn't want them to really overlap too much, except that they're like horror-based, kind of darker-based, domains of dread. Obviously, they're not going to be rainbows and popcorn.
Well, they might be, if that is what some
if
people
that scares
particularly
you.
dread. Yes.
If you have a phobia against unicorns, yeah,
Indeed.
I can see that.
Well, I've been to Whimsydale, so
yeah. So that's going to come out with Von Richten's Guide to Ravenloft on May 18th. I think that's a book that a lot of fans are looking forward to. Are you a Ravenloft super fan? I'm thinking you were.
I am a good fan of anything vampiric, and I really dig Strahd. I started doing the Curse of Strahd campaign, but that kind of fell out a bit. But I will definitely be purchasing this on D&D Beyond when it comes out. So that means you'll be able to have a look at it too if you're interested.
Cool, definitely. That was one of the other questions I had later, but did you end up picking up Candlekeep then?
I have not yet.
I didn't either.
I do plan on getting it at some point. But at this point in time, it is not useful for anything that I'm doing. But I very much am intrigued, especially from the perspective of running one-shots, like regular one-shots, because one of my other groups that I play with, we're thinking about doing the round robin of, you're the DM now, you're the DM now, you're the DM now. And I think Candlekeep would be perfect for that.
Yeah.
Personally.
pretty cool. All right. Well, other than that, I did notice we had Celeste on last weekend, which was super cool, and her Kickstarter did go live. I just pledged today. I meant to do it earlier and then got busy, didn't know what I was doing. But they are already fully funded, and they're just blasting through stretch goals at this point. She's up to like 57 or 58,000, so she's still doing good, but that doesn't mean to slack off for those of you fans out there. We always like to support those people that are just coming up from the community. I mean, pretty much from just somebody who decided to start running games themselves, not affiliated in the gaming industry at all, and now actually going to put a product out there, something that I just can't wait for. Kind of this show to do a little bit of that. Jordan's done some of that. I need to get off my butt and do more of that, because I like the idea of somebody that just pulls up their bootstraps and just does it. They're just like, I love it so much, I'm just going to put a product out there and put my heart and soul into it and let people enjoy it. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think Danimal would be. I think you'd be a person that if I was going to do a group of people to bring together to write on a book, I'd be like, all right, Danimal, I bet you could write some good stuff up.
Well, now I'm going to have to up my writing game.
Yeah.
But,
start practicing a little.
I definitely I backed it as well. I only did the PDF. I'm not made of money, but
that is true. Well, that's another question I was going to ask you. Are you a big Kickstarter fan? Are you out there pledging Kickstarters? Now, I am an addict, so you should never ever do what Lucien does, because I spend money like it's like water.
one a month or something.
Yeah, it's like one a month. And no, that's what I'm supposed to do. That I keep doing more, but I'm supposed to only do one a month. So I don't know, $50 a pop. You know, I just want to support these creatives that are getting off the ground that necessarily aren't coming from places that they could have got the money anywhere else. I just love the idea of somebody deciding, I'm normally an accountant, or I go and sell cars at a car dealership, or I just have a normal job, but then I love gaming and I have this world in my head that when I'm off work, I'm doing this and you guys might enjoy it too. And I'm just like, I want to support that as much as I can. So I'm a Kickstarter junkie as far as that. But what about you? So you did back this one. Are there other notable Kickstarters you've backed in the past you're looking forward to in the future?
Well, I've kickstarted some games in the past. A couple of them might be the board games you see behind
board
me.
Board game stuff is good too. That's a big market too.
That's been my main Kickstarter for sure. I haven't really done much Kickstarter lately. The biggest problem that me and my wife have is kids. We want things now. Like we want them today rather than, we could get this May next year. And actually the last one we did, I think
I'm still waiting a year for several of them. Yeah.
The last one I did that I received was Skinny Minis, which I love. They're made by the Dungeon in the Box people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those Skinny Minis are really nice for tabletop play. I really dig them.
Yeah. You're a big miniature guy too.
Oh yeah. That's another problem.
That's the other problem.
Yeah, we just got a Froghemoth. Very nice.
Nice.
We also bought a game which came out, I think, this week, which was
Munchkin.
Mighty Nine Munchkin from Critical Role.
That's really good.
Yeah, we haven't played it yet, but I've been looking at the cards. Anybody who is a Critical Role or Mighty Nine fan, every single card will make you go, oh yeah, over and over again with all the quotes on it and the interesting art. I am a big fan.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, I forgot that originally when we talked, you kind of started board games wise. You did a lot of board game nights and it moved into tabletop role-playing stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I regrettably haven't been playing as many of these as we used to, because it's like we could play board games or we could get another session in.
Yeah. Oh, there's my dogs and telling me my wife is home. So without too much news, we really have some different things. We can just talk about anything at this point. So I think we can jump into some of the game stuff, because one of the cool things, I want to talk about our game a little bit. Maybe I'll dive into it early, out of order for you guys out there. But we've been playing Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Danimal is a big fan of playing the official content that gets put out. In fact, I don't know if I've played in a Danimal only world. I think I've only played with you because you love buying the big modules and you love running I am assuming you buy those big ones because you love them. Because we played Tomb of Annihilation which again, hands down, has been my favorite module ever, probably thanks to you running it really well. But you've done other ones. I've heard you've done the starter set with your family. I think you've done Phandelver. I think you've actually ran. What are some of the other ones you've run so far?
So I've run Phandelver and I've played in Phandelver.
Uh-huh.
My son actually ran me through the Essentials kit, and that was good. I've done 2 games of Tomb, 2 games of Dungeon Heist, in the middle of 2 games of Mad Mage.
Mm-hmm.
I started Strahd, and I'm hoping to get back into it soon. Very soon I'll be starting. What's it called? The Hell one. Baldur's Gate: Descent into Avernus.
Yeah, Descent into Avernus. Yeah.
And there's only been 2 games that have been homemade by me. One I'm still playing right now, which is, it's set in Eberron, but I've been homebrewing it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is a Theros game that I've been homebrewing, and that has actually been my favorite recently. I've been really enjoying that one.
Because you have a lot of freedom to kind of really explore cool ideas that, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So that's cool, because you don't get a lot of dungeon masters that are they might play a official module and then kind of put it away after that, but you've actually back to back in several of these, and 4 of them at this point: Tomb of Annihilation, Dragon Heist, I guess it'd be 3, and then right into Dungeon of the Mad Mage. You've run 2 full groups that are crazy bonkers groups through these modules, and almost nearly at the same time, are just really close back to back.
My other group was about 4 to 5 months in front of you, with a delay with a baby being born, which was entirely selfish. I think they're only about 2 months in front of you now. And it started out as, if I'm streaming online, I should do something I'm comfortable with. I should throw you guys into Tomb because I'm currently DMing Tomb.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of gets flowed on from there, where it also came down to money. Hey, I already own Tomb of Annihilation on Roll20. Yeah, that works out.
Well, if you want to run any of the other modules, I'll buy them for you. Because if you want to run, because I've always wanted to play some of those other ones too. Eventually, down the road, we've got our hands full with Dungeon of the Mad Mage, but definitely your players and players out there should pitch into their dungeon masters, help them out, because he's a guy with a full family. He's got a board gaming hobby. He's got a miniature wargaming hobby. He likes to paint those kinds of things with terrain. And then he's also trying to do the TTRPGs, and that's pretty good. So what have you learned? What do you think something that's unique? Because I've not ran the same exact campaign with different groups, although I guess Revenar is that way in a little bit, because I was running different groups, but it wasn't like they ran the same adventure. Like everybody got to go out and do the same thing.
Yeah.
What do you think is beneficial? What do you think has been great about running 2 different groups through the same adventures?
Well, I'll say that you guys get the better end of the stick, because the amount of times where I'm like, oh yeah, I understand how this room works. And then they get into it and then they ask a question and I'm like, I think it's 20 feet high, or, there's so many different things where, okay, so I don't want to criticize Mad Mage because it is a great book, but because it is so large and the maps are so big and there's so many rooms, there are a bunch of errors or mistakes or things that aren't really fully fleshed out. And I've discovered those in the other game, and then I've written myself notes for when you guys get up to that. Here's how this works. One recently, they recently finished level 8 in the dungeon, and I had so much trouble wrapping my head around one section, to the point where I even just read them word for word what it said, and we worked it out together, and it's this is how it works. No, this is how it works. And after about an hour and a half, we have it down, and then now when you guys get up to it, it'll be a cinch.
So that's cool. I could see where I was thinking that too. Prep for that second campaign game is going to probably be less. You're saying, you're going to be way more familiar with the sticking points that you find throughout any module, because there's always going to be, because a lot of times they're very good about giving you a sentence that reads like you understand what's going on, right up until you have to run your party through it, and they're asking you a million questions about, well, what's this do, or what's that do, and you're just like, oh, none of that was mentioned, so I've got to really think on my feet, or that you're right. That does contradict what it says. I don't know why I didn't catch that when I read it, or whatever. So that's pretty cool. What's the downside? Do you have a downside to trying to run too? Is there any things that you don't like?
Remembering what happened on each level, because I was definitely like, did they befriend that NPC? No, they killed that NPC. No, wait, is it alive? And usually I check my notes, because I unfortunately take better notes with my home game than I do with our online game, because I can always go back and watch.
Right.
So I don't keep as good notes. But there's been a few times where I've almost been caught out where I said, and you know how this works because of this. And they're like, what? And I'm like, I mean, it happened actually recently where you guys finally figured out the first portals, how the portals, some of the portals work in Mad Mage. And my players, that's something that is very different. And I think it might have something to do with the online play and the at-home play, because my players were stuck in the one spot. No, we are figuring out this portal. 2 hours later, they finally figured out the way of opening it. While on an online game, I feel like you guys might be less inclined to go, let's sit around all at our computer screens and think and not do anything for a little bit. While it's a bit more reasonable in a comfortable space rather than online. So I totally get that from online play perspective, but yeah, they've tried to figure out every single portal as soon as they get there. But at the same time, two of the players are those kinds of people where they can't leave any stone unturned. They've got to go around every corner. Everything must be solved always. Yeah. And then I am a mean DM when I say, okay, so you guys are done with that level? You finished? You missed 3 secret rooms. Okay, next level, let's go. And it kills them every time.
Yeah, so I think our group is definitely an action-oriented group. We want to get to the action sometimes. Although we get stuck on weird things every now and then. Like, I'm pretty sure, going back to our game, and I'm not going to care about spoilers. Me and Jordan were talking about this, that I was trying not to ever do spoilers about our campaigns, but I feel like maybe that was the wrong thing. Like, if you don't want to hear spoilers about, Dungeon of the Mad Mage, then I'm going to put my hands up, and then the next time I wave my hands like this, we're back, so you can mute. But we decided at one point, due to a player in Dungeon of the Mad Mage, just to go to Xanathar's lair. Totally just coming off of doing something different in the session before, probably having a plan or an idea of what we might do in the next session. And then we just all of a sudden said, yeah, we're going right to Xanathar's, area. Yeah. And just like, what? What did you think when that was happening, or as it was happening? Or did they tip you off sometime during the week that they were going to do that? I can't remember.
Here's the convenient thing. It's exactly what my home group did. They charged Xanathar's lair, and I was very fluent with how that whole area works, because it was part of the storyline where one of them was very, very, very against the Xanathar Guild, and they were sick of all the the bugbears and
I hated that town. I wanted to go there to map it, but everybody in that town made me just want to punch him in the face. So it was like, of course I'm not going to like Xanathar.
And that's one of those sections that I mentioned before where Skullport is empty. It like, if I was a more diligent dungeon master, perhaps I could have filled it up with more stuff, and I did, but defaultly there's nearly nothing there.
So it's an area, that's an area, if Dungeon Masters are playing that, you're going to want to definitely flesh out a little bit. And they probably do leave some of that in there so you can, to try to figure it out. Yeah, I'm still struggling with the idea that if you step back from Dungeon of the Mad Mage, it's supposed to be adventurers worldwide will come to the portal and drop down and go adventure. But all of this hasn't felt like there's a million adventurers wandering around. It doesn't feel like that at all.
I think the biggest part of that is, especially in the first 2 levels, you guys kept coming across areas where here's a chest, it's empty, or here's the bones of a wyvern, or here's a Medusa that is turned to stone, where it implies that previous adventurers have already cleared this bit. And something that I've been doing as a way of keeping it a bit simpler, and I guess kind of making it a bit easier on you guys, is when you leave, the idea is the dungeon repopulates a little bit, and I do that to a certain degree, but I'm also working under the proviso that part of the reason you're mapping it for AC Inc. is they're kind of taking over. Mm-hmm. And so once you've cleared it out, they send control groups in to keep it clear, again, to a degree. But yeah, it could be a bit more fleshed out.
Did you do the AC Inc. tie-in? Because really, actually, we're playing Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and we actually even started playing Dragon Heist with the AC Inc. book tie-in. Was that with your first group too? You did the same thing with them?
No, and they were jealous after I told them the benefits you guys get and how it helps, and they're like, "Can we do that?" I'm like, "No, sorry, boat sailed."
It's a different game. You're so mean. That's awesome. I think that's yeah, because that was I like the idea of bringing things together when you like mechanics. Like, I mean, right now you love the Theros mechanics, so bringing Theros mechanics into a campaign that's maybe not Theros, but that doesn't mean you might not want to bring some of those really cool and fun mechanics in and have, you know, some of that cool stuff. And I think AC Inc. works with our group only because we're a little bit goofy. We definitely are greedy. We're on the shady side of adventures. We're definitely not the mighty heroes of the town. We're more like the, yeah, we'll do it, but what are you paying us kind of adventurers, you know, of the group.
I'm actually really happy with the level of buy-in that all of you guys have done. Like with Ward being the robot that's like, well, what would the company think? And he has to work for what the company wants to do. And I really dig all that.
Yeah, we kind of dive into that whole corporate side of stuff. And
yes.
There's definitely some unique personalities there with our group that are jiving together in a fun way.
That's a polite way of saying
if you're not watching it, you're seeing us do some crazy stuff. And we fight with each other constantly too. So that's the other thing. There's a lot of tension in our group at times too. I think, which is pretty fun. I would love to have been able to watch your other group go through the same thing. That's the one thing I miss, is that I would love to say, because I've watched other people run through Tomb of Annihilation now, and it makes it's kind of fun to go, oh, that's how they did that, or that's how that dungeon master handled that piece, or oh, I had no idea that was there, or maybe it even wasn't a part of it. Maybe it was just something the DM created. But it's cool to see how different ones would go through. So I've seen a lot of Tomb of Annihilation ones just because I love the adventure so much. And it's been fun. But I would have loved to have seen like how your group handles. Not before we went through it, but definitely after the fact, to go, oh, so that's what they did on level 3, or how did they handle the Xanathar fight at that point? Yeah.
That's what one of my regular watches is. He gets to do exactly what you want, where he's been playing in the home game and then he watches you guys do it, and then he's like, oh, okay.
At some point we should do a mix of the groups. We should do a couple of sessions where there's some type of body swaps or something, and like maybe a couple of their players get to play with our group for a night or two, and a couple of our players get to play with them, and maybe you just set up a TV at your table or something so they can be remotely there for your game. I think it'd be fun if there was a mixing of the groups a little bit or something, or maybe a one shot that we could play together with some of the
if we ever did that. All of my games are always on Roll20 because we use a digital TV as our tabletop. So it's something that is quite easily done.
Yeah.
I will say the biggest difference, I think, was the Froghemoth fight in Tomb of Annihilation.
Yeah, that's a good one. Tell that one. I love this story. So this is a good one.
So with my home group, one of them got eaten, and the whole fight was, we've got to save her. And it was just like, this close that they saved her. She had already failed 2 death saving throws. Someone had to climb in, open her up, and cast Cure Wounds inside, revive her. But then she went down again from the body acid, and then they had to pull her out and revive her again, because with Tomb of Annihilation, there is no revivify. You cannot come back if you fail 3 death saving throws. And I thought for sure she was dead. I'm like, she's gonna die. And she didn't. Someone else did later on. But that Froghemoth fight was like the pinnacle for a long time.
Now, let me interject a second before you say the next part. So when I went through Tomb of Annihilation and we fought the Froghemoth, different group ran by a different dungeon master, the same thing happened to me. My barbarian got swallowed. I'm fighting it from the inside. I'm raging out. The last kill of the Froghemoth kills it, but the acid kills me too. And it requires our cleric to dive into the mouth to try to heal me and get me out before I'm actually dead. It looks like I'm gone at this point. It's like one round of it goes one way or another. And if you don't make the rolls, that's it. That player's gone or whatever. So the same thing happened. I was like, oh, this is really cool. And when I played the second time, I didn't know any of the things that you're about to mention about the Froghemoth. And I tried not to do any strategizing or any warning because I was looking forward to letting them realize what was about to happen to all of us. So they were doing all kinds of things that I thought was dumb, knowing what was there. But I'm like, no, let's do the dumb things because this is gonna be good. Okay, now tell the second part.
I will say that I thought you did a very good job of not bowing out, but stepping back and allowing people to have their own ideas. But that fight was a complete cakewalk. You guys took 0 damage. The Froghemoth did 0 damage. I rolled really poorly for initiative, and someone cast Call Lightning, and that was it.
Yeah.
Game over.
I did Lightning Bolt, and I think somebody else did Call Lightning.
Yeah.
And it was... We had no idea. I mean, absolutely no idea. And this isn't always true because we have a lot of knowledgeable players that sometimes our player knowledge is leaking into our character knowledge. Here, we do a good job of trying not to, but it still kind of does a little bit here and there. But I had no idea. I had no idea there was a weakness to this at all. And it was the right weakness, which was so good.
Oh, it was perfect.
And so it gets hit by lightning. And then what happens to a Froghemoth when it gets hit by lightning?
Effectively the same as the slow spell. They all of a sudden their whole technique of grappling people, hitting it with the tongue, biting it to swallow it, all in one turn is gone. Instead, it can do one attack per turn. Its AC goes down by 2. It, I think it also gets worse dex saves. It was bad.
Yeah, we tore
like, okay. And then I believe the paladin proceeded to smite it with 2 level 3 smites that rolled very well, and I think it only got 1 or 2 turns of combat, both of which could only do one thing, and it requires 2 things to swallow, and it could not swallow, and I was very sad.
Yeah.
I will say this though, both games, 2 people identified with the Froghemoth so much. In my home game, the person who was eaten was like, I got eaten by the Froghemoth. Now I want to.
I want the essence. I like it. They weren't mad at it. They liked it. Yeah.
And then the same thing happened with Corridon, where he's like, "Oh, I really love the idea of the Froghemoth so much." And then when it came up again, they're like, "I'm going to get that Froghemoth." It was very interesting.
That is funny. I do notice. Do you notice in our game? So you play. I think people might have picked it up, but a lot of your games are at the table. And you have our online game, which is through Roll20. So there, obviously, we've all talked a million times about differences of that. But I wonder about one thing specifically, the dice rolling. I feel like our group has a higher than average rate of rolling well. And you have a higher average rate of rolling low as a DM. Though there are times when you've had some good stretches. But most of the time, it's not, the dice are not with you in a lot of things where I think, oh, this thing could have been cool and he was expecting it to be cool. But then somebody made the save or he didn't roll what he needed to roll. Or you rolled like for 7 creatures to do something and not one of them rolled over a 4 or something. And it wasn't even that we just have high AC, which is a problem. But it was, you were just rolling bad anyway. So then it just kind of made it. Is your group that rolls at the table... Where do you think the dice level is? Do they get the better of it or do you get the better of it at the table? And then how do you feel about the online? Do we get the better of you and you feel like you're getting not as good, or are you seeing it a different way than I see it?
One thing is very key in regards to that. In regards to me failing a whole bunch, I play the monsters kind of how I think they would react. If they've got a high int or whiz, then there's a good chance they might do something smarter. But the amount of times where I look at their stats and they've got negative in both, I'm like, they're just going to smash against these 2 over 20 AC characters in the front while everyone's in the back. So I'm just going to keep missing. But yeah, there's been quite a few games where I've been rolling very poorly. That being said, the game after you guys in Theros, there's been times where I've been rolling very well to the point where we're nearly finished that campaign, and this is also online roller, and I did over 200 points of damage to a player in one turn of attacks, where I just kept rolling 18 on the dice, 19 on the dice, 17 on the dice. I did not roll under 15 for so many attacks, and he was nearly destroyed.
Yeah,
it's been interesting, but yeah, I don't know if I roll better on one or the other. In regards to rolling real dice and digital dice, there are sometimes, like, I prefer, if I'm rolling for a single guy, I want the feel of real dice. We have dice towers. We have excellent dice.
I love my dice tower.
I name my dice and I say, oh, Cthulhu's going really well today. And that makes my players go, damn it, Cthulhu, or damn it, Golden Boy, or whatever. I'm a big fan of almost anthropomorphizing the dice, and then the players hate them.
They are a character in the game. They're like the third party of the game. Really.
Yeah. While if I'm throwing a fireball, I am typing /R 8d6 because I don't want to count 8 dice.
Yeah, it adds it all up, figures out all your bonuses. That's what I love, and I know I think I'm exactly the same way. I love the idea of rolling dice. I love the idea of having my paper character sheet in front of me at times. But Con has gotten so complicated. Con, my Aarakocra Arcane Archer, at this point, if I didn't have an electronic character sheet, I'd be lost at this point, because there are so many crazy bonuses going on with weird things and things I have to try to remember, that I love the electronic character sheet for the math that it's doing for sharpshooter, and then the bonus to archery, and then the bonus from the bow, and the bonus from the arrow I might shoot, and then it might be one of my poison tipped arrows, so there's like all this crazy stuff that gets in there.
Have you used much of Beyond 20 at all?
Not as much as I should. I do to create the initial character, but we start to get in such weird places grabbing some things that sometimes I can't get the D&D Beyond character sheet to in there, the plug-in to work quite right, as much as I love the character sheet. Because I can go in the character sheet and manipulate the math, and I understand it so well because I'm a dungeon master of Roll20 that I know exactly where to put the bonuses. I know what to toggle on or off to make things work, which is nice.
Yeah. Because for the past 7 or so months for the Theros game, 3 of the 4 players have been using Beyond 20, and it's been interesting with that, where we've been slowly watching it evolve, and it's actually gotten really good lately.
Well, I haven't tried it in a while, so yeah, you may be right. I may need to go back. I know Logan uses it quite a bit in our game.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. So what he's talking about there, Beyond 20 is a plugin for your browser that will link to your D&D Beyond account, so that when you're logged into like a Roll20 game, you can use that plugin to push rolls and things to the actual screen, which is nice. So it can
something we recently found out with it. If you name your character the exact name as your D&D Beyond character, it auto updates the HP on Roll20.
Oh, that's nice.
And so that's been really nice.
Yeah, because it's a little wonky on D&D Beyond changing the hit points the way it works, but even Roll20 is a little wonky too, because you can change it on your token or you can change it on your sheet, but sometimes those aren't linked and blah 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 blah.
Yeah. The amount of times that I'm like, oh, have I not set up this token properly? It can be frustrating. And then I think I've saved it. Then I pull it from the menu again. No, I didn't update it. No. But I will say the only thing I don't like Beyond 24 is when something has multiple values. So if somebody was to cast, say, Spirit Guardians.
Yeah, Spirit Guardians.
Because Spirit Guardians can be necrotic damage or radiant damage. So it rolls 3d8 necrotic and 3d8 radiant. Or Chromatic Orb's even worse, where it rolls 3d8 of each of the damage types. Gotcha. And I'm like, surely you could program that a little bit better so it only rolls the one 3d8. But
yeah,
whatevs.
Well, and there are some other character sheets that are out there. I think we're using the base one, and I wonder if any of those, because I've tried those a couple years back, and some of them were pretty good, but then I went back to this one that we use now. But there are people out there making character sheets, and I love character sheets. So
some of them I've toyed around with a couple of them. Some of them look great, but I prefer the basic on Roll20.
Yeah. So, well, that's cool. I like the idea. So you don't feel like the dice are any different. You still feel like they're random enough that I just feel like When I play at a table, I feel like it's really random. Like my dice are absolutely random. I get the impression that when I'm playing online, I roll well all the time. Rarely, except if it's a save I really need to make. That's the only thing I always lose. But my attacks are usually above average, pretty good. The damage rolls are usually really good. I'm not getting a lot of low rolls when I play online for some reason. Really, and Logan's throwing 20s out like they're going out of style when he's rolling. I mean, he is rolling for 3 attacks because of his barbarian every single turn, almost 4 if he does something else. But I feel like he throws 20s out constantly when he rolls. It's just amazing to me. So that's cool.
Write a note not to give him a Vorpal.
Yeah, check his macros. Maybe there's something going on in there. No, so it's pretty. I think what's cool is the idea that you have a lot of easier prep if you're going to run it again. You understand it more. I would love, like I did that with Storm King's Thunder. Storm King's Thunder is a hard one to run the first time through, but I bet the second time you run it, it's way better for that group because you've tried to figured out all the weird stuff in Storm King's Thunder. I'd be interested to see how you ran Storm King's Thunder because it's a much bigger sandbox version adventure than any of the ones you've ran before. Even Tomb of Annihilation, although how much jungle delving did your original group do? Because we didn't. We went right to the city, really.
I sped through that because I felt like too much jungle delving wouldn't have been that good to watch. But with my home group, they did it fully legit. They had to keep track of water, food, travel, X amount of hexes per day, check to see if they got lost. And
did they enjoy that part of the game?
Yeah,
did they like that? Yeah.
It's interesting as well because for most of them, it was their first experience for D&D, and they really enjoyed it. But then when we played Dragon Heist afterwards, they were like, "Oh, this is so much easier." Oh,
we don't have to worry about water and weather.
We were playing hard mode where it's like it's very hot. You get exhaustion easy. You need water. You need food. You need to protect yourself from insects. Yeah. And then now it's like we have a house.
And we're in a cool city that has everything we need, and we're just doing cool adventure stuff. That's
Indeed.
Cool. So they're pretty far along on Dungeon of the Mad Mage. You gonna take them to 20, you think, or are you gonna route them out of there at some point?
Well, I'm hoping to get all the way down. All right. Their campaign is going to be different to yours, though, once the lower it gets, because I'm tweaking theirs in one way and I'm tweaking yours in a different way. I don't like the vanilla Mad Mage. Yours is going to be tweaked in this way, and theirs, I've already have all these underlying things where they're slowly figuring it out. But time will tell as to how that all will work.
That's cool.
Speaking of getting to 20, my Theros game will hit level 19 in their next session.
This has got to be your first high-level game then, right? You haven't ran a high-level game, have you?
Well, that leads into my Bardic Inspiration.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll save that here in a second. We're at a good time for... I decided because Jordan the curmudgeon was gone. No, that's not true. I'm just teasing him while he's not here. We have been doing the cool... kind of our monster compendium thing, which has been fun because we wanted to switch up Bardic Inspiration. But we did have a lot of people say they liked Bardic Inspiration. We knew we'd want to bring it back every now and then. And I had such a good idea, or at least in my mind, that I was like, I need a Bardic Inspiration. And when I finally got the chance that Jordan wasn't going to be here, and I got damn, I'm like, we'll do Bardic Inspiration again. So welcome back to, I won't play the tune or anything. I was thinking about doing a splash screen and doing it all up, but yeah, I'm too lazy for that. But welcome to Bardic Inspiration, which is a part of our show where we like to, as Dungeon Masters, we are influenced by the things we read or watch or see somewhere, and then it starts to get our minds rolling. Because as Dungeon Masters, the one thing you do all day long when you're doing other mundane stuff is think about how you could do a campaign off of something, or how you're thinking about one of your games, or you're thinking about your next game you want to run. And so there's always these ideas in there going along. So that's why I love Bardic Inspiration. Let's start off with, let's just jump in. I'll let you go. So you had your Bardic Inspiration. Lay it on us. What kind of cool idea could you give Dungeon Masters out there for campaign setting, new rules, something cool and creative?
Well, I wouldn't say it's necessarily that creative, but as I'm sure you're aware, Lucian, I've been playing a bunch of Diablo.
Yes.
Big Diablo fan, have been for a very long time, since the original Diablo. And it's interesting, once I saw Mad Mage, all I could think about was Diablo 1, when you're in Tristram the first time. You go down, you come back up, you go down, you come back up, over and over. And that got me thinking recently. Once I saw the Theros guide, I was like, I need to play a game in Theros. I need to play a game. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I thought up this whole idea with the heroes of the gods. And I was thinking about, I was playing Diablo at the time, and I was thinking about how, it's so nice to get quick level. Like, you get the really high gear, things that give you so much experience, and then you can quickly level up to level 70 straight away and get into the action. And I was thinking about that in the perspective of the players and the gods, almost seeing the gods as the high level players, which are helping you gain experience quickly, and the players being the newbies that want to quickly get up to the end game content. And so I've been constantly empowering them with the gifts from the gods, both by the piety system as well as various items which are useful to them. But at the same time, they've also just been the chosen of the gods, and so they just gain so much experience so quickly, to the point where they're leveling up about every 2 or 3 sessions, to the point where they're about to get to level 19, and we're right near the end game content. And it's been a very interesting experience, because I've never DM'd past what my home Mad Mage group is right now, which I think they're level 11.
Yeah, that's right about where everybody quits.
Yeah. And it's been very interesting setting up encounters for level 15, 16, 17. The biggest thing was when they got level 9 spells. One of my characters last session,
world-shaking spells,
meteor swarm.
Ooh.
And the dice roll for that was rather big. And then even the player was taken aback when I put down 3 40 radius spheres down, and they're like, that's actually really big. And they were able to hit everybody. There was a little bit of danger close, but you get that. It happens. But it's been a very interesting experience with the quick leveling. And since I've been doing it, it's not just a brand new idea, I've got some insight on it from the perspective of it is very engaging. They're like, what do we have now? What do we have now? What do we have now? Where I've been giving them high powered items nearly every session. Like, somebody gets something nearly every session, and they're leveling up every 2 or 3 sessions, where there's always something new. And so the engagement and the happiness and the joy of always getting stuff and getting closer and closer to the end is great. The very big downside is the amount of times where they get a new ability and it gets overlooked, or they get a new ability that they think will work, but they don't have time to test things out. They don't have a random fight against goblins to go, I'm going to try out. The most recent one was Tense's Transformation. One of my characters thought that'd be a great move. I'll cast Tense's Transformation. I'll get 2d8 or 10 force damage on each attack, and I get to attack twice. But it didn't work out because they needed to cast more spells and they couldn't move around. And they realized with the way that they play, that spell just didn't mesh. But because all of the encounters are epic encounters, like everything is massive this or lots of that. There's nearly everything's deadly. Nothing is mediocre because everything is always ramped up to 11. There's no space to test out new ideas. And either something sticks or something gets abandoned, or they're getting so many new stuff regularly that they're like,
already on to the next thing.
I got this 3 levels ago. Apparently I've been able to go invisible as a bonus action. My wisdom modifier times per day, or something like that. And various things get overlooked. So that is the downside, but I gotta say,
that's playing Diablo 3 though. Like, if you're a brand new player who's not looking at everything that's going on, you're like, and things are popping up, and you're like, what did that do? What is this thing doing? What does that thing do?
I will say though, as a DM, I've had a lot of fun with it because I want my characters to be strong. I want them to level up, and I don't think this will be the last game I play where I'm speed leveling up. If I'm not playing,
and you get to dive into the big monster part of the book that you've never gotten to dive into before. You get to pull out the big CR stuff that's only been pictures and you only read about, but you haven't got to actually try to figure out as a dungeon master, it's sometimes hard to figure out all the abilities of your big bad and try to use them all cohesively until you've tried it once or twice. So I got to imagine even that's got to be tough.
What's been fun is if you've had a excuse me, if you've had a look at the Theros the bosses, or the monsters in general, I've used every single one except the highest CR, and that bad boy's coming, old Tromacratus.
Yeah.
Cool. He actually killed one of the character's parents, so it's going to be a very interesting fight, that one, I'm sure. Yeah. But it's been really great, because that was honestly the main thing. I saw mythic monsters and I'm like, I want my characters to fight this.
Yeah. Yeah. How do I get really him there? Yeah. So really, I like the idea, the bardic inspiration. And I have, obviously, when we come up with these things, a million other people have had the same ideas. But I have had the thought, too, of, so we could see more of the content. What if they leveled up once a session? So you create a nice big 4-hour session. It was an all-inclusive adventure. But at the end of it, you tell them, hey, you guys are level 2. See you next week. And then we do it again. Hey, you guys are level 3. See you next week. I always thought that would be a really fun thing to do, but you're definitely listed out the good. Keep in mind, here's your pitfalls. Here's the cool things about it. Here's your pitfalls. Be ready for that. So I've always thought that'd be cool. Maybe one a session's a little too much, but you've been doing 2 or 3, so that might work out too. But a speed level, and it sounds like heavy magic items in D&D. 5e is not known necessarily for heavy magic items for players. They've moved all the abilities and all the power to the classes and the race abilities and all the things they can pick up with subclass stuff and some magic items. And they even limit you because you can only attune to just a couple. 5e is not a magic item heavy game like a Diablo 3 where they're sprouting out like, little, weapon fountains or, I want to pick up that gold item. I want to pick up this item, So I kind of want to get back to a tabletop RPG that does have a loot fountain, and maybe your abilities aren't coming from you yourself or your class so much as all these cool items that are thrown around that you can just pick and choose and do. So I think that'd be interesting. I think that's a pretty good bardic inspiration. That's a good one. I like it. So I had one. I've been reading a book. This one's inspired another one by a book, and it was a cool idea. And it's a little bit about me and Jordan have been talking about. He's creating his new system and how he wants to do magic and stuff and how you get abilities and how you can pick and choose and modular, put them together. So this book's based around, there's adventures, and you can become an adventurer once you have essences. You pick up these essences. A person can have 4 total. And when you get one, under that essence, you can get abilities that are related to that essence. So an essence could be like a fire essence. An essence could be like an animal essence. An essence can be all these different things. And then you could possibly at some point pick up an ability that's going to go with that essence. You get 5 of those. So since you can have 4, you can eventually get 20 abilities that you're going to build to as a high-level adventure, which I like the idea of. But here's the part that really picked it up for me in the book. Once you get another essence, a second, a third, or a fourth, the way the world works when it's randomly giving you abilities is trying to create a synergy between the essences you picked up. So if me and you picked up fire and that was the only one we had, and then it might give you an ability to do a flame stream attack, just streams out like a flamethrower maybe, and then I might get a flame attack, but maybe mine's a ball that travels like a fireball kind of typical thing. So we're still fire essence, we still got an ability, it's just fire based, nothing to it. But if I then pick up a wind essence and you pick up a water essence, the overall magic of the world is going to try to synergize those two things, and the next abilities you get are going to come synergized between me with fire and wind and you with fire and water, and it's going to start really diverging and really coming up with it. So in the book, the character had some interesting ones. He had like sin was one, and he had punishment, and he had I'm trying to remember the other ones. Doom was an essence, and he had a different one. And what he turned into was kind of like a sin eater. He would go around and he would pull afflictions off of his teammates, and then that would give him bonuses to power up or heal or do something by taking bleeding away from them or disease away from them or some debilitating thing, and he could do so. And then he started getting more abilities that he could put those types of things on poisons or bleeds or whatever on creatures. And all of his stuff started to synergize based on the essences he got. And I love this idea because I thought it would be really cool if, as a dungeon master and a player working together, you randomly are getting your essences, because the essences just drop as things from adventuring. So you don't always get one, and they're hard to get. But when you do get one, it's like coveted. So you're out there constantly trying to find them. And I thought this would be a cool thing, Bardic Inspiration wise, because if you were my dungeon master and I got a fire essence, and then I got a essence of the bear, me and you at some point after the session could sit down and say, how are these things going to synergize? What are some of the things that might start to push this into? So I've got an animal essence, but I've also got a fire essence. Fire, heat, anger, bear, big, tough, angry. Does that start leading me into like a rage ability that might start happening? Does it turn into a summoning ability that could happen? Does it do some type of like a clawed, flaming claw maybe that I could, so with you and your dungeon master, I feel like you could sit down off game and you could say, when we roll these abilities up, let's work together to come up with a cool ability that synergizes with the two, and then we're ready for next session, right, to do whatever we're going to do. We don't get fun. That. Whereas normally it's a list we're picking from, or somebody else has already developed it. But what if part of the game is you working with your dungeon master to come up with what your abilities are going to look like? Almost like that bow you built, knowing how I picked up a bow that was a magic item crafted by Danimal for my archer, and he kind of knew I was looking for something special for a bow. He kind of understands a little bit about my character, so he crafted things that are interesting and would appeal to my character. And I like that, and we kind of worked a little bit together on what it looked like or some things that are there, but taking that one step further to say, let's work out the mechanics of what my next ability is going to be. And I just think that'd be a fun, cool idea to come up with. So it's essence. So it's in a book I'm reading right now. It's He Who Fights Monsters. I've talked about it a little bit. It's by SirLucien is the name of the author. I think that's just like his pen name that he writes under. And I love this idea of you get 4 essences, they create a synergy, and you get abilities every now and then as you go, and they start to rank up and they get better and better. So that was my Bardic Inspiration. Yeah.
It reminds me of a combination of 2 video games.
Yes.
Magicka. And Final Fantasy VII with the materia system. Yeah.
I think, and that's what I liked about Magic is so good, because you shoot those beams together and you get something different, or you do a key combination that changes what you're doing. So I really like that too. That's a good reference. We should play Magicka 2 at some point. That'd be a fun game for us to play.
Still haven't started Magicka 2. I own it
I do too.
1,000 other games on my Steam account.
We should play that at some time. We'll put that on the list. So that's pretty good. That's our Bardic Inspiration. We probably went a little long on both our ideas, but I just got really inspired by thinking about how you could work with your dungeon master to come up with abilities that really match things and really bring out the creativity of both of you, because you could both put things in and say, well, I think this should do this, and we, in the level, you guys are first level, so rolling 1d6 or 2d6 makes sense, but this is what it would look like, and this is what it probably would be, and then really collaborating together on it, I think would be cool.
That kind of reminds me of something I recently did in Theros. Actually, one of my characters is a shadow sorcerer. And I'm sure you're familiar with Shadow Sorcerer. Yeah, no. He also ended up picking the spell Crown of Stars, I think it's called. And it basically has all these motes that you can shoot out as a bonus action. But one of the key things it does is it gives off light, bright light. Now, as you know, this is a high level campaign. He has access to the Shadow Sorcerer ability, where if he's in dim light or darkness, he can teleport to different places around the map.
Yeah.
But when he casts that spell, he can't be in darkness anymore. And he realized this, and he's like, oh, I'm still going to try and cast it a few more times. And I'm like, do it without telling him. And on the 4th time he cast it, I took in inspiration from him being a shadow sorcerer, as well as the basic idea of the Nyx in Theros, where it was no longer a crown of stars, but a crown of the Nyx. And so now it still worked effectively the same, but he could control how much light it gave. And then that synergized with the way he wanted to play, because he was shadow based. This spell's giving off light. After casting it a few times, now he can dim the light down. And so it's now more of a starry sky rather than a bright light.
Yeah.
And
very cool.
It's not exactly what you're saying, but it's similar.
Well, that's funny because in that book, an essence can be changed by a traumatic event or by a character pushing to try to save somebody else. So they have one in there where he has a dragon essence and his team is about to go down. He's the last one standing and he just has to, he makes that extra will and his essence morphs to give him one more change in ability that made it different. And he was able to save his team because of that morphing. And that's something that happens commonly, not commonly, but can happen at traumatic moments during fights in this world. And I thought that's a cool idea where you're taking in stuff about the character or stuff about the gods they might follow or stuff about the events that happen in their lives and changes them. You've kind of done that with, I would say, Ward a little bit too. Ward's character is a very crazy mix-max of abilities that you've let him kind of weave together into this very cinematic war machine that he's turning himself into. That's just crazy. And you've kind of really given us the reins when he's done that. So I like that too. So that's another good instance of that. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, go out and read that. I think you guys would like that book. So bringing it back around, we got a few more minutes to go. We know about our Dungeons Mad Mage. I was calling today's idea, if I was talking with Jordan, portals and dragons for me today, because we were messing with portals. Sometimes when you mess with magic, it bites you in the butt, and it bit us in the butt a little bit again. We think there's a dragon coming. It wasn't, we still think it's a dragon at this point. We're going to have a nice big fight next week. Indeed. We'll see how that might go. What did their group do with the druid?
They were going to be a bit more political than you guys ended up being.
I wanted to be friendly. I had no idea we were going to... And I think I only did it because... I can't even remember. The awakened tree walked up and started saying something. And then I could tell the way Jost was leaning that I knew a fight was just going to happen. And I just kicked it off. But before that, I wanted to be a friend with the druid.
Yeah, sure. The biggest problem is... without knowing it, the party was saying keywords which were in her fight part of her brain, where although you don't know it and you might never know it, she was a spurned lover of the guy who died in that gravestone. And you know that staff that can cast flowers wherever, it can't cast roses because roses was his family crest. And he would always give her roses, but then when they broke up, she's like, I never want to see roses again. And she's been deliberately single since then. And then with Yost talking about wanting, like, hey, are you single? And wanting to almost romance her. And then also talking about the gravestone, bringing up his name, showing his fireball wand. It was just too much. With my home group, they were trying to be political, but they ended up walking away for a moment and was actually just whispering back and forth and saying, okay, well, what we should probably do is just pretend we're on her side. Let her do some stuff, because they have some really good deception. And they were like, and then what we're going to do is pretend that we're on her side. Later on, once we've dealt with everything, had a long rest, we'll come in and kill her and take all her stuff. While they were standing next to an animated tree.
Yeah.
But they didn't know it because you guys didn't end up coming across that. But there's a few trees in the area that were animated. And when they said that, the trees spoke in Druidic to the druid and a massive combat started. Different to your one, but yeah.
Very fun. That's cool. That's very cool. So I know the one last question I wanted to get to just before we jump off here was, that's my game with you. Right now I'm only playing one game. I'm definitely trying to get back to, I want to start running a game again. Which one it's going to be, I don't know quite yet. You're running lots of games. So you've talked about your Theros game, the 2 games that you're running with us. To me, I'm almost hearing that you're playing all Dungeons and Dragons games at this point. Is that true?
Yeah, I haven't actually played anything. I haven't played anything else properly. I've had a little dabble with Starfinder. I had a little dabble with Pathfinder, but nothing more than 1 or 2 sessions. We got a raid.
A raid.
I haven't really played much more than D&D 5e. My wife really is looking into GMing a game of Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'll ever find a party to play with, but I've always wanted to play the Burning Wheel.
That's a big one.
Yes, it is.
I don't think I could ever run it. I would be interested in trying to play it, but man, I don't think I would ever try tackling running it. You need a special game master for that, I think.
I agree. I would like to try, but I don't think I would do a great job. But I just love the idea of the system. I like it very much. But yeah, I also really want to play Numenera. I want to play.
So that was the question I was going to go to. So you play a ton of 5e. You love 5e. You're playing at least 5 different, 4 or 5 campaigns at this point, planning others in the future.
Yep.
But is there another TTRPG out there that you really want to run as a dungeon master, maybe in the future, but you haven't got to? But what's at the top of that list of I want to run this game?
I think it might be Numenera, to be honest.
I love Numenera.
I haven't really read many rule books outside of I've looked a little bit into DCC because of all of Jordan's DCCing, and I've looked a little bit into the Burning Wheel because I've watched a few games online of that. I've looked at Pathfinder. I don't feel like I'd ever want to run Pathfinder. I would happily play it, but if I'm going to be running something in that vein, it's going to be 5e for sure.
Yeah.
I could see myself running a DCC, and I could see myself running a Call of Cthulhu perhaps, but I'm trying to let my wife take the reins on that regard. She's actually one of my regular players, so she's very board game and tabletop RPG focused as well. So hopefully, I think she could do a good job.
All right. So maybe last question to rule out our show. We know your son's a dungeon master at this point. How's his dungeon mastering career going? Is he still running games for people? Is he running games for his friends? Has it branched out any? How's that going?
He's making his own homebrew world right now.
He wants his own. He doesn't need anybody else's.
It's very it spawned from me playing Theros. He was making a very realistic Greek. He wants to do the when I say his own homebrew world, it's basically Earth, but he wants to do the Iliad. He wants to do all the Odysseys. He's obsessed with history. I've never seen a kid his age obsessed with history to the point where when we play trivia every Thursday night, and anytime it comes to do with anything country based, history based, or war based, we're like, Toby, who was Xerxes and Darius the rulers of? Yeah. Oh, Persia. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Awesome. So that's cool. Has he gathered friends together and introduced them to role playing, or is he still playing with family members at this point?
He in regards to D&D, he's only DM'd us, and he does an all right job. He's not the most confident. He wants to do something and loses confidence with it. But what's interesting is he does way more role playing than I ever do, because majority of the time he spends on his computer, he's playing on these alternate history games where he's playing as Germany, but they win World War II, or he's playing as Italy, and it's completely different to how the timeline ran. And so he's doing these games where it's not like there's any dice or any random chance. It's all the players who have picked these separate countries make decisions. Okay, let's go down this path. Let's see what would happen. Mussolini wouldn't have done that. Oh, what's Rasputin doing? And all of those things. And it baffles me because I look at that, and I'm not trying to cast any shade, but I would not find that interesting in the slightest. Story, it's and not to slight the TTRPGs that are out there that are based around this, but there is nothing left up to chance. It is all just storytelling where everybody is yes-anding, and he loves it so much, and he does so much of it. and it is his passion.
Nice.
I wouldn't be surprised if this develops into something in the future, but we endorse it. We help him out. I've been getting him got him some new headphones the other day so he can help chat a lot better with them. It's surprising not to, I assumed a lot of the people that he'd be playing with online are older, and a lot of them are, because again, he's only 12, but there's a couple of 14-year-olds, but it is mainly adults, and so I'm usually within earshot. Yeah, I'm usually within earshot, because a 12-year-old with adults, it's a bit iffy, but they seem to be a good lot, and so far so good.
That's good. Well, awesome. That's awesome. I always like when more people get introduced to the genre, and like I was introduced by my friend, and his older brother had brought it over one day and said, "Hey, let's try this thing." And so I bet he's going to be that for somebody down the road. Like there's going to be some group of teenagers that he's like, "Oh, well, I can run this game for you guys if you want to play a game." And they're like, "All right, we can try it." And then just be like, "Oh, that's what this is."
That's what all this has been. Like he's been introducing to Risk, to Dominion, to Catan, and I assume eventually it'll lead to D&D, because everything in my household leads to D&D eventually.
So that's good. That's the best way to end a Saturday morning D&D show, is saying that everything leads to D&D for sure. There you go. We got the patches got sent out by Mr. Jordan, which is super cool. So let's wrap that up. Well, thanks so much for helping me out with the show today, Danimal. I can't wait till our Tuesday night role playing. It's been fun. Everybody there for the raid that showed up. We're only an hour show, so you showed up towards the end. I hate to do that when raids show up, because we get raided every now and then, but they come towards the end. But we thank you for coming. And if you want to watch this on Twitch, I'm sending the recording over to Jordan. He's going to put it up on our YouTube channel, so you can watch the video of that if you would happen to miss it live. We can't wait to have Jordan back next week, and we'll jump back into the regular Saturday morning D&D show. So everybody, thanks for joining, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye. I gotta hit all the buttons.